So anyway, so I'm talking with her. I'm kind of flirting, and we're feeling good and whatnot. And all of a sudden, her husband shows up, and
Uh-oh.
her husband,
Oh, no.
he owns the bar. It's his bar. And the next thing I know, we're not in the city anymore, and now we're on these dirt roads, and we are going in the middle of the jungle, no street lights. And I'm thinking, okay, I was just hitting on this guy's wife.
Uh-oh, he's going to go take care of some business.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Where is he taking me, right? There's so panic kind of sinks in a little bit. There's no civilization out here. I could just easily disappear. Nobody would ever know.
Yeah.
And you could see the snipers in there. They were all mounted up, scanning the crowd. So,
And I guess the United States and the IMF do that as well. So I'm not saying one's greater than the other,
Right.
or one's better than the other. They're both essentially corrupt to some regard. But are they grateful? I would not say so, because also some of these Chinese infrastructure projects, they're put together super fast, they're poor quality, and so all of a sudden, a couple years down the road, they start falling apart and bridges collapsing and stuff. So it's like they don't really care who's in office, if it's Joe Biden, Donald Trump, because it doesn't matter who exactly was in power, if it was Democrats or Republicans. It's just the United States is just like its own thing.
All right, so welcome to episode 8 of the Groff Show. Today we're going to be talking with Garret Jacob. He's a content writer for our agency Bitrate. He is a digital nomad. He travels all over the world. Currently he's in Cambodia, and we're basically just going to talk a little bit about how it is being a digital nomad and how you get clients and how you manage your freelancing business and whatnot. So without any further ado, Garret Jacob, how are you, dude?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. It feels good to be here.
Yeah, man. So me and you had talked a little bit the other day on the call about your current travel situation, but we'll kind of just start there. You said you're currently in Cambodia, right?
Yeah, I'm in Cambodia. I'm in Siem Reap, Cambodia, which is where Angkor Wat is located. And actually, on Wednesday, I just 2 days ago, I went to Angkor Wat, and it was an incredible experience. I was not expecting it to be so impactful, but we went there. I hired a private driver, and I got there at 4:30 in the morning, and it was the full moon, and so the full moon was setting in one horizon. So I found a place outside of the temple and just kind of sat down on a ledge and watched the full moon set. And then once that full moon went down below the horizon, I walked into the temple, into this big, giant outdoor area, and found another spot. And I just sat there with my headphones on, listening to music, and I watched the sun rise from behind Angkor Temple. And so I was there for about 4 hours in the morning, and it was a very peaceful, powerful day. It was very cool.
Wow, that's really cool, man. What kind of temple was this? I'm not familiar with that.
So
Angkor Wat.
So Angkor Wat, it's a mix between Hinduism, like Brahmin Hinduism, and Buddhism. So it started as a Hindu temple, and then slowly through the years, they made it the different kings of the Khmer Empire. They turned it into more of a Buddhist empire more as a Buddhist temple, as the empire itself changed its religion from Brahmin Hinduism to different sects of Buddhism and this happened over a couple hundred years, but in the temple, it's still really prevalent. There's symbolism of Shiva, Vishnu, different Brahmin Hindu gods, and then mixed with the Buddhist tradition as well. So it's really cool, because I went to a lot of different temples in Thailand, and in Thailand they didn't have the same influence of Hinduism. It was more just straight Buddhism. So It's definitely something very unique that you don't really find in anywhere else. So that was probably pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I've always been like fascinated with the Roman Empire, and I just like reading about it and whatnot. And they kind of had a similar thing. It wasn't Hinduism and Buddhism, but like it's funny how emperors, like in kingdoms just throughout history, how it is with religion. Like
Yeah.
early on, they were like oppressing Christianity, and then afterwards, the one emperor came in and decided we're making that our primary religion. It's just crazy how kingdoms
Yeah.
change and shift
Mhm.
shift over time.
Right?
Yeah.
Probably, I guess, like if the population is going one way, in order to remain in power, you better adapt or die.
Yeah.
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 Is that what you kind of seen? Is that how it was kind of with Cambodia? That like the people started adopting the one over the other as time went on?
I'm not entirely sure on that, but this was like a steady progression of like, several generations and different kings. So it was a very gradual. And at one point, the Khmer Empire actually had two state religions. They simultaneously had Hinduism as a state religion and Buddhism at the same time, and they
Mhm.
coexisted peacefully, which is kind of
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Because you don't really hear that a lot in history. Usually, it's one trying to conquer the other.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, multiple don't really
but
go together that well.
yeah,
So you're in Cambodia now. How long are you gonna be there? Because I know you bounce around a lot. You just got in Cambodia like the 22nd of January, right?
yeah, exactly. And so I got a 1 month visa.
Oh, nice.
And before that, I was in Thailand for 3 months, and then I was in Laos for about 10 days. And during this time, I'd been kind of bouncing around. Like the longest that I stayed in a single city was about 7 days or so. And so after about 3 months, 3.5 months, I was kind of burnt out a little bit of eating in restaurants and sleeping in hotels. So I figured that Cambodia would be a good place to just get an apartment for a month, which was way more economical too. Like
Mhm.
it
Oh,
brought
yeah.
my yeah, like I got a 2 bedroom apartment here. There's a swimming pool, rooftop terrace, 2 bathrooms. My friend, she actually joined me. She's from Peru. She'd been traveling for 10 months herself. She's also a digital nomad. She's a psychotherapist, so she does like online therapy sessions. Um, and she'd been traveling for 10 months. I've been traveling for almost 4 months. So we got together in Thailand, and then we came here to Cambodia, and we're like, let's just like get an apartment, low rent. It was $300 for this 2 bedroom, 2 bath
Oh,
in
wow.
Siem Reap. I know you can't beat that.
Yeah, you can't beat that
Um,
around here.
yeah, you can't find that. You'd be,
Yeah.
it's like, but yeah. So we've just been laying low here, and we're about like 3 kilometers from Angkor Wat, and there's all these temples around, and we live in a very local area with it's all local people. Like the
Yeah.
tourism sector is like about 2 kilometers towards the downtown center, but we're more in a residential area, and the local people have been very welcoming. We got invited to a Cambodian wedding, like our second day that we were
Oh,
here.
really?
What?
Um,
No way.
yeah, yeah. The guy that we're renting the apartment from, he was like, "Hey, my niece is getting married. You guys should come, and we'd be honored if you would come and have some food and listen to music and dance." And so we're like, "Oh yeah, hell yeah!" So we went out to this farm, about 10 kilometers outside, way out. It was just rice paddies and water buffalo, and just a very rural part of Cambodia. And all of a sudden, we walked through this farm area, and there was this big tent pitched, and they had a speaker stack, like a dub reggae concert, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the speakers were like 20 feet high, and they were just bumping this like Khmer like dance music.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man, that's
it
really
was
cool.
wild. But
You you said you passed water
Yeah.
buffalo on the way out there. I recently learned that those things can like swim really good and up to 30 miles an hour. It's crazy.
Can you imagine if you're like
Oh,
swimming
no.
or you're in a boat, you see a buffalo cruising by at 30 miles an hour?
Yeah, I saw this
Dude,
one
that
video.
freaked me
It's like
out.
completely submerged underwater like an alligator, and you can just it's like this tank that's cruising underneath the water. Like we're
Insane.
used to seeing alligators do that because we're all three of us are born and raised in Florida, and alligators are one thing,
Okay.
but water buffalo that's
Yeah.
like that's another thing entirely. I just thought they were always called water buffalo because they hung around water.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I didn't know that they could swim.
Garrett, can you hear
honestly.
us?
I've never seen them in the water. Yeah, I
Mhm.
can hear you. Uh-oh.
Riverside is pretty good about stitching clips together.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm back. I think I lost the connection for a second.
And feel free if you need to turn your video off. Like obviously we would prefer to have video, but if it starts cutting out a little bit too much, you can just turn the video off, and usually the stream goes a little bit better.
Okay.
So yeah, Cambodia, and then you had mentioned to me you're gonna be making your home base in Peru, but then you also said something about Minnesota too. Are you originally from Minnesota? Is that where you're born and raised?
Yeah, I'm originally from Minnesota and went to the University of Minnesota um, and worked and lived and went to college there until I was about 30 years old.
Mm.
And then I started traveling in South America. But about Peru, you're asking about Peru. So actually, Peru has been my home base since 2018.
Oh, okay.
I went, yeah, and so I spend about 6 to 8 months of the year in Peru, and then I spend about 2 months in Minnesota, and I was going back and forth, and then also spending time in Colombia, living there as well in Colombia.
We've all three
And
actually been
then
to Colombia.
just taking trips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, we
Whereabouts?
were in Bogota for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
and then at
Okay.
one point for like 3 days we'd went out to some smaller village town
Yeah.
outside of Bogota.
Yeah.
I completely forget the name of it.
Yeah.
But that was a fun experience for sure. At the little small village outside of Bogota, there was like a security guy that would stand, or maybe it was a police officer. He would stand on the corner like every day for like
Yeah.
just a few hours, like,
Mm-hmm.
and then he was like the guy we got to know the most in Bogota because every time we would leave our house where we were staying to walk
Yep.
around,
Yeah.
like he was always there, and then he would like ask us, tell us where to go, give us directions to certain
Yeah.
things. It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
He's like our personal guide tour,
Yeah.
but he'd never leave his post.
How long
It was,
were
like, it was awesome.
Yeah, how long was he down? We down there like
Yeah.
2 weeks, 3 weeks.
I think it was like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's close to a month.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was the first and last time all three of us were out of the country, but that was fun for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember eating so much rice. When I got back home, I was like, just give me a juicy cheeseburger, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I'm a big milk guy
for-
too, and they package all their milk
Yeah.
in bags. And I was like, oh, this creeps me out a little bit.
Yeah, I know. Like they also changed up a lot of their food and stuff because like one time we got a pizza and instead of like pepperoni, they put on hot dogs for the topping. And we were all
Oh,
freaking we were
yeah.
all freaking out. We're like, what is going on
Actually,
here?
I forgot that about the milk. You would buy the milk like room temperature in the store in bags.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was so weird. I would not drink that milk.
No, we did drink them, but you did drink the milk.
Well, probably because that's like all we had. Like that's all they would sell. But I mean, like,
And it felt like there was a lot more preservatives in it because it tasted different.
well, they
too.
had to if they're setting it at room temperature.
It's bad.
I don't like to think
Regardless
about
of
it.
temperature. No, I stopped drinking milk when we were down there.
So like you had to go home and you had to make sure you cooled and chilled the milk beforehand because you'd buy it like on the shelf.
I
Right.
wonder if it was like.
You'd buy it on the shelf, right?
Yeah.
I wonder if it was like.
He'll
Powder.
be back.
Yeah, I wonder if
He
it was
just
like.
needs to rejoin.
I was wondering if it was like powdered milk.
No, there was powdered milk, but that's why we didn't buy it much.
No, what if they
There
had?
was a few times we bought it for cereal, and you could still taste it in the cereal, but I never drank it plain.
You couldn't drink it
Too
plain.
bad.
You know that one time you tried to start a merch brand with milk and it was a milk jug?
Yeah.
You could have changed the logo to a milk bag.
Ew. That would have been
Mm.
disgusting.
We were just, while you were hopping on, we were talking about the milk still because you'd buy, I don't know if you heard it, but you'd buy the milk, you like buy it room temperature and it's in the bags and whatnot.
I remember we'd eat it
Yeah.
a little bit in our cereal, but I never drank it straight up. And when we got back to the States, it's like, just give me a nice cold glass of milk.
Cameron is a big milk guy. He'll drink lots of milk. Just
Yeah.
some people
Yeah.
think
Milk
it's
was a
disgusting.
bad choice.
Yeah.
All right, so you said you traveled in Peru a little bit in Colombia. What made you decide to make your home base in Peru? You like that? You like Peru a lot better, or?
Yeah, so in 2014, I went on like a 9-month backpacking trip all around South America. So I started in Colombia, and then I went to Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, Uruguay, Argentina, Chile, and then back to Peru, and then I went back to the United States, and this was in 2014, and it was a life-changing experience, you know. Um, and when I got back home, I was working as a supply chain manager at an import company that imported like maps, paper maps from different publishers from all over the world. Um, and I did all of their like supply chain, you know, import, export. I managed the entire warehouse. I managed their Amazon FBA accounts, just basically everything with procurement to order processing to getting the product to the end user, you know, off of our different websites. And I was in this office and I was working 11, 12 hours a day, every single day. And I had Sundays off, which was nice.
Yeah.
But I was just getting burnt out of this, like, the grind lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
And it was taking kind of a toll on my mental health and my physical health. I was, like, putting on a lot of weight and I was kind of just depressed. And so part of working for a map company was that I would get all these people. They would call me and they would be like, "Hey, I'm gonna buy a motorcycle and I'm gonna buy it in Buenos Aires and I'm gonna drive to Patagonia and then I'm gonna go up the Andes Mountains, and so I need these maps for the entire leg of my trip." And so I would help them out on the phone and I would help them kind of plan their itinerary, and I'd get them, make sure that they had all the proper different maps and charts that they needed to make this trip. And then I'm sitting there thinking, like, why am I not doing this trip myself? You know, why am I sitting here
Yeah.
helping these people when I could be doing this?
Mhm.
So I ended up quitting my job and I sold all of my possessions and I went to Peru and got my English teaching certificate
Okay.
in 2018, and I started teaching English in Cusco, Peru. And because I chose Peru because when I was on that trip in 2014, out of all the countries that I visited in South America, the place that was the most logical for me, that I could see myself living in, that had a community of other expats that had moved there, that was safe, that was good cost of living, that had access to fresh fruit and fresh vegetables for very cheap. and just a higher quality of life in general for what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Out of all the cities and the countries that I went to in South America, Cusco was definitely the number one choice.
Mm.
So I went there, got my teaching license, and then I was working in an institute there. But it didn't pay enough, you know?
Yeah.
The pay was abysmal. It was like $450 a month.
Yeah,
Oh,
because
wow.
I assume if you have the job in Peru, now you're getting like Peru wages.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Is that
so
what
then
made
I
you?
was running.
Is that what made you
Go ahead.
transition to freelancing and whatnot? Because
Yep.
like if you're making money online, you could set your rates according to like the states and whatnot, and then you now have all of you can now live off of that income in a place like Peru where the cost of living is way cheaper.
Exactly. So that's when I came to the realization. It was about 2019, and I was running a deficit, every month. I was dipping into my savings to, fund my lifestyle. And I don't live a very exotic lifestyle. I mean, it's very difficult to live off of $450 a month, no matter,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
no matter where you are,
Yeah.
right? My rent was $300, so then I had $150 left over.
Mm-hmm.
And so every month I was dipping into my savings, at least a few $100s. So I was like, okay, I need to figure something out. So the first thing I did was I started teaching English online to children in China and Vietnam. I worked for 2 different companies, and I was doing really well with that. At the time in 2019, I was making like $22 an hour.
Oh wow.
And it was awesome. It was like the golden era of teaching online for English for in China, because there were so many students and there weren't a lot of teachers. So if you as many hours as you want, you could get.
Yeah.
So when I made that switch, then I just quit the institute. I quit the school because it just was not like a waste of my time, because I really enjoyed my students and everything, but I was at the school from 7 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night, 5 days a week,
Oh yeah.
And making only $400.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh man.
And in between classes, I was doing my lesson plans. I was writing curriculum. I was studying Spanish at the time too. So
Yeah.
I was just burning myself out again. And I was like, okay, I left the United States in the first place because of this burnout that I was trying to get away from.
Uh-huh.
So why am I putting myself into this same burnout situation again? Like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And so then I switched to teaching English online full time. And also I started writing for a publishing company in Mexico that did ESL textbooks. So I started writing for them and helping them with their reading comprehension exercises
Okay.
in their textbooks. And that's how I got into writing, like as a career path. And
Yeah.
then at the same time, around that time, I joined Upwork.
Okay.
How do you like Upwork? I've used it
You know-
myself a little bit when I was doing freelance video, but I never really liked it.
It was good at one point. In one time, it was good. And this was probably pre-pandemic, 2019, 2020, even 2021. I would get like really decent paying clients, easy to work with, and then once people started, it clicked in their mind, like during COVID, like, oh, I can work online. Like, the market became so saturated that it was just an automatic race to the bottom at Upwork. It just plummeted.
Yeah.
Wages, the quality of clients, everything. I mean,
And also
and today
Upwork drastically increased, or they maybe not drastically, but they keep increasing their prices for both the clients and the freelancers. And now there's like this whole bidding system on Upwork for like connects and whatnot.
Mhm.
And I've looked at some of these connects that people do that they bid. So like on the client side, you can see how much a freelancer put how much connects they put to get in the top like 3 spots. And one time I calculated it, someone did like a few $100s worth of connects to get to the top of the job posting. And I was like, that is crazy. And then also on the client side, a lot of freelancers don't know this if you don't have work on the client side, but they're increasing the prices on the client side too. So it feels like Upwork as a platform, like their innovation has just stalled, and they're just squeezing their customer base from every angle in order to increase profits and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I hear that all the time now. Like somebody who worked on Upwork, they say exactly what you said. It changed so much, and now it's just hard to get jobs. Before I started my agency, so the agency you work with us through is a side agency. We all 3 started on the side last year.
Okay.
But I have another agency, and that one I started freelancing, and I started on Upwork, similar to you. I started in 2020. Everyone thinks I started because of COVID, but that was just kind of the time I happened to start.
Yeah.
And it changed a lot. Now, after like a year or so, I stopped using Upwork. But do you still get the majority of your leads through Upwork, or do you have other avenues of finding clients?
I mean, sadly, I'm still very dependent on Upwork because I really haven't found a path to finding clients. Part of it is because of, I guess, a lack of motivation to do so, but now the motivation is increasing because of Upwork's obviously, like you said, they're squeezing both the client side and the freelancer side, and something's gonna break eventually, and like, but for example, my 2 main clients that I have right now, one is you guys, and I found you guys on Upwork. So
Right.
Yeah.
and my other client is called the Loan Atlas, and they're like a learning management system, and I'm like their content specialist. I do all of their written content, and it's more like educational content that I write for them.
Okay.
And I found them on Upwork too, like about a year and a half ago. So it's what I've realized is, so when I need a new client, I'll go on Upwork and I'll wake up every morning, I'll have my coffee, and I'll probably put out about at least 4 or 5 proposals per day. And that's after going through maybe like 200 to 300 job listings. I maybe find like maybe 4 that I'm like, okay, I'm willing to spend connects on.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'll do this every day for like 2 weeks, right? And so maybe I'll have 20 proposals out there, right? I will maybe get 4 or 5 that are viewed, and then maybe 1 or 2 people will actually respond.
Yeah.
So
okay.
and I know it's not because I'm not qualified. I think it's just like we talked about. I think the market is very saturated with freelancers, people that want to work online. Also, now with the globalization of Upwork and such, we can have competition from English writers and speakers from the Philippines, from India, and their English is good enough level that they can obviously compete with native English speaking writers, right? But then you add artificial intelligence into that mix, and it's just, it keeps getting watered down even more and more.
Yeah.
And the connects thing is crazy, right? Because I'll spend $15 and I'll get like 100 connects for $15, right? And then I'll be looking at these jobs and it'll be like, oh yeah, we need a freelance writer, SEO editor to audit our website. And then it'll be like, okay, $8 an hour they want to pay.
Yeah.
And then they want to charge you 25 connects just to bid on the job.
Yeah.
And then you're competing against other people, and they're doing the, where you can boost your connects. So then you're spending maybe $6-7 just to get a job that's bottom market rate anyway. So
Yeah.
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 You mentioned AI. How do you see that affecting what you do right now as a writer? Like, do you see prices going down because people are using AI to do all their work for them?
I do. And one thing I've noticed is that on Upwork, I see postings for AI writers that will use AI to generate content, but then they'll go in and edit it to make it like human sounding or,
Mhm.
to give it its
Yeah.
natural feel. But then they'll put the hour rate at like $5 an hour, and I'm like, why? And they're like, oh, because you're using artificial intelligence, so it's easy. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not paying for the art. You're paying for my time. Like my time is not worth $5 an hour just because I use artificial intelligence.
Right.
There's a
Yep.
disconnect between like
That's when they're probably
reality and
looking for someone in the Philippines who can speak English, and they don't
yeah.
really need to be able to write a whole article. They just need to know English enough they can make it sound a bit better and whatnot.
Yeah.
When you advertise your services or whatnot, or do you do like just content writing in general, or do you do also like SEO sides of things? Like, do you do a lot of what you do with us, where we basically do all the keyword research and we send you the topics and you write the articles? Or do you also do like keyword research and whatnot from like an SEO perspective?
So I do know SEO. I've used Surfer SEO for many years, and actually I do enjoy it as a tool. I think it's a good, powerful SEO tool. Um, I don't advertise so much as doing keyword research and such because I don't really like doing it.
Yeah.
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 I like to write. I prefer like if somebody can do the keyword research and they give me the brief. I like to just have the creative license to because I enjoy the writing process. I don't enjoy the SEO process as
Right.
much.
Yeah.
I
But
only
I have
asked because if I know a really good strategy you may be able to use. So LinkedIn is great for getting B2B clients. I hate LinkedIn as a platform just because it's boring and stiff and whatnot. But my one other agency started working with kind of like a consulting firm that helps implement lead generation systems and whatnot. And they use LinkedIn all the time for both the organic side. So they'll write their own LinkedIn content that's kind of like
Mhm.
educational based. So for example, you as a content writer, if you were them, they would basically write a post saying your blogs aren't getting any traffic because it's structured the wrong way. Here's how to structure it in 3 steps. And then they'll basically just go down through how to structure a good article or whatnot. And then they get clients from that. And then also they use LinkedIn Sales Navigator to basically reach out to people. So kind of like you're sending proposals on Upwork, you reach out to people on LinkedIn. And that may be a really good avenue for you because with our agency, Bitrate, the one you write the articles for, we do website audits for companies a lot. And
Okay.
they almost all of these companies have a blog on their website, but their blog never gets them any traffic because they don't know how to write articles that get traffic. A lot of times they'll just like write a generic article like say it's in the roofing space because that's what you've been writing for us. What's a good example? I don't know a good example off the top of my head, but they'll write articles that people aren't necessarily searching for online. So like really nobody can find it. And like the days of people just coming to your blog to see what you posted that day is like over. Nobody really does that anymore. So you
Right.
gotta write content that ranks on Google that answers like specific questions and that will rank at the top spot. And then that's how we get a lot of traffic for our clients. So I'm wondering if you were to put together like a little package like that, like I do content writing, but I'll do content writing that gets you traffic. That would be a really good offer to propose to people on LinkedIn, because you have all of these companies who want to get traffic to their website.
Mm-hmm.
And if they could just pay you a little bit per month and then that increases their traffic,
Now you're
that would
moving
be
away from
really
Upwork,
valuable, because we've seen in the market so many companies, they suck at getting traffic from their blog. And you wouldn't even have to do the keyword research. That's when you could hire somebody from the Philippines for like $5 an hour to do keyword research, and then basically you write all day. And
Yeah.
we could actually show you our LinkedIn process. We follow the process from the consulting agency, and it's a really cool prospecting process they have. We actually, on that agency, we booked a meeting for today using the process where we basically reach out, be like, hey, here's what we do, here's how we can help you. And specifically with Upwork being what it is, you may actually find a lot of benefit from that, because LinkedIn from a lead gen perspective is actually really good. It sucks because the platform isn't fun to use, but
Yeah.
No, I would appreciate that, of course. And I've been trying to get off of Upwork for a while now. So, yeah, any guidance or information that you can provide, that
do
would
you
be.
create any content yourself?
So I have written like travel blogs, like stories about traveling in Peru, specific hikes. But I mean, what kind of content do you mean? Like
I just meant
social
like
media?
content in general. Like when I say content, yeah, obviously like social media and whatnot. But if you're trying to get out of Upwork, that would be a good path for you. Start creating content specifically on a platform where it would be a good platform to get leads from. So since you're in the B2B space where you work, your customers are other companies, LinkedIn would be a really good platform for that.
Okay.
Specifically because LinkedIn is still one of the few platforms left where text content can perform really well.
Mm-hmm.
On my personal profile, I post like once a day, and a variety of like videos, images, and text content. And I was on a consulting call with that agency the other day, and we were auditing my content. They were giving feedback and whatnot, and all the most recent content on my profile that's been hitting the most has been text only content, which is really cool. You can sit down for like an hour, draft up like a week's worth of content, and it performs really well on LinkedIn. So if you want to start creating content, LinkedIn would be a really good avenue for you, because you can write text content.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike YouTube or Instagram, or where it's now all video based, they're all going towards video. LinkedIn, you can do text content.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you yeah, we'll talk about it after
Yeah.
this after our episode here.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that would be a good avenue to go towards. And I noticed that too, like now with what do you guys think about? Now I'm gonna pose a question to you guys.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
let's
turn
do
the
it.
tables.
Yeah.
Do it.
We love doing this type
So
of
I've
stuff
been-
on the show.
So I've been seeing a lot of advertisements recently for using artificial intelligence to produce faceless animated YouTube and Instagram content.
Uh-huh.
Have you guys explored that at all, or do you know anything specific about that actually being monetized and people making money off of that?
I've seen a little bit about it. I haven't tried it. We haven't tried it in our agency at all. But some of these platforms, like I think Instagram is one of them as well, it will detect whether content is made with AI or not within the code, and it will monetize it differently than if it was actually user created. So it's actually kind of supporting you to create it yourself, because it'll push your content more than it actually will AI generated content. So I actually haven't. I've seen the ads for faceless video and stuff like that, but I haven't actually ever seen content on Instagram or Facebook that was actually like where you could tell it was AI, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
trying to think.
That makes sense.
I know AI voiceover is really good now. Like you can hardly tell the difference between an AI voiceover and an actual voiceover by a real human.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking if you could kind of stitch together elements of AI generated content for videos, like you could write a script and then you could have an AI voiceover do it. And then I'm sure there's a platform out there where it could kind of do explainer type drawings or whatever. Like I'm sure you've seen those videos, like it's a tutorial or whatever, but it's using like stick figures or a hand drawing the content or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
You could probably do that. In terms of monetization, do you mean like getting paid by the platforms based on like views and whatnot?
Yeah.
So YouTube is by far the best one. They pay the most. So they pay a certain cost per milli, which means cost per 1,000 views. And it ranges anywhere from, if you're in the kids niche, it could be like $1 per 1,000 views. If you're in like the finance niche, it could be up to like $50 per 1,000 views. And it's kind of hard to make a lot of money with that type of monetization or relying on that monetization only, because you just need so many views. On my other agency's YouTube channel, we get around 18,000 views a month, which that's a channel of 2,000 subscribers. We try to post weekly, and that generates like $134 in US dollars, which isn't that, it doesn't do a lot. But here's where monetization gets really good. If you have a service or a product that you have, that's by far the best way to monetize YouTube, because you basically create content and then you do call to actions in the video to the service or product that you have, and then that gets people to reach out to you. And usually for those leads, you get to like set your rate, and they'll usually buy from you because they view you differently. So they view you as an authority in your space versus like one person amongst 50 other proposals on Upwork, where they're basically just shopping by price. Here, they came to YouTube trying to solve a problem. You helped them with a video. Now they're like, you know what? I just want to pay this guy to do it, and they'll pay you pretty much whatever you ask.
Yeah.
For example, the channel, it gets like 18,000 views and generates $130 some a month in revenue. But we recently closed a client over there. It was a small client. It was like a $500 one-time thing. But from one client alone, it like quadrupled the YouTube AdSense revenue. So for like you start a YouTube channel and you could do content on like content writing, how to write for how companies can write content and whatnot, and then advertise your services on the back end. And that's by far the best way to monetize a channel, because you can make a lot more money that way. And it's good for branding too. Like I said, it positions you differently than one proposal amongst 50 proposals on Upwork.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's good.
And if you can't find like a way to do it that well with AI, YouTube is really simple. People care more about the content than the quality. So as long as you have a good mic, you literally just sit down in front of your computer for 5 minutes, record a quick tutorial on how to structure a blog post it with a good thumbnail, and you'd be golden. But then you're having to hop on video, which I know if you're more familiar with writing, it can kind of be a little daunting, because now it's an entire other format. But YouTube is really good.
Yeah.
I would say LinkedIn if you want to start doing text content, and YouTube if you want to start doing video content. But definitely monetize the YouTube from your services, and that would be the best way.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So you're making. You said Peru is your home base. or you still come to Minnesota a little bit, right? You were waiting on like a
Yeah.
visa or whatnot.
Minnesota summers, baby. There's nothing better.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So you Minnesota Vikings fan? Or
Yeah.
no? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Minnesota Vikings just I'm just a glutton for punishment, you know. So
Yep.
Vikings are my team.
Yeah.
Yep.
Did you watch the Super Bowl?
No.
Yeah, this
Because with the time difference, it started at like 8 in the morning here, you know? So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
yeah, I was like, it would have been, if it was a better setup, if it wasn't Philadelphia, Kansas City, if it was like Buffalo or, I don't know, if it was anybody else, I would have like set my alarm for 7 in the morning. I would have
Yeah.
got up
Yep.
and, you know, I would have streamed it. I would have made some chicken wings and had a couple of beers
Yep.
at 8 in the morning, you know, and
Yeah.
made a thing out of it. But I just wasn't inspired or motivated to do that because of the matchup this year, you know.
Yeah, it was. Did you this Super Bowl? It was the lowest
It was pretty.
cost Super Bowl in terms of ticket prices in like a long time. It like set a record because people were just so tired of the Kansas
Yeah.
City Chiefs and the Eagles back at the Super Bowl again.
I know.
And
And like this last one, it was like so boring. Like halfway through the game, you already knew who was gonna win, because like
Yeah.
the Eagles scored so high.
There was a point in the game. It was like 34-0. It was like
Jeez.
big. It was like
leading up to the Super Bowl, a lot of like reporters and everything were trolling Mahomes and
Yeah.
Kelsey with like, who's your favorite ref? Like one reporter went up to to Mahomes and was like, who's your favorite ref, Mahomes or whatever? And he's like, oh, we're just gonna go out there, play hard, whatever like his answers are.
Yeah.
And then the guy goes, wait. Let me restructure this question. Mahomes, who do you send a personal Christmas card to of the refs every year? And then the game started and it reinforced that trolling because like 3 minutes into the game, Philadelphia scored a big pass and then he happened to reach out his arm and touch the face mask just a little bit of the Kansas City Chiefs guy, and they got him on passing interference and everyone was like, uh-oh,
I know.
here we go again.
Yep.
Yeah. I know. Well, like also in just big games like that, literally just a normal thing will happen and people make a huge thing out of it just because it's the Super Bowl now. And and it's like a flag is being called on their team. So they're like, of course that was not right call.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know this, but the president was at the Super Bowl, and that was the first time a standing president was at a Super Bowl, and I didn't know that. I was like,
Wait, it was?
I assumed other presidents
that
went to
too.
Super Bowls.
Yeah,
but-
because they usually go to things like that. Like you just see them at popular events like that.
yeah, you'd think they would because it's good. It's good promotion because the president's there. They're gonna put the camera on the president at one point,
Yeah.
which they did for a little bit. But
Yeah.
Of course.
in your travels, what was that? Go ahead.
No, I would think it would be like a logistical nightmare from like a security standpoint.
Oh,
Like,
did you
yeah.
know? So when you watch the live stream, there you could see
Yeah.
sniper nests all
It was
over the
everywhere,
Super
yeah.
Bowl. There was multiple
Wow.
ones, and you could see the snipers in there. They were all mounted up, scanning the crowd. So
Yeah.
you were there. You probably had a crosshair on you at one point. It was like they were just
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
probably
Just
everybody.
Yeah,
just
I-
a laser light.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you just see the laser right down here.
Yeah, I missed that. I didn't see that part. I still want to go back and watch some of the old clips to see it because I heard about it, but I never saw it.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that Trump was there too because like you said, a logistical security nightmare, and like he already had like 2 assassination attempts, and then you go to an event like the Super Bowl where
Everyone's at.
and there's people there trying to do not good things. Like
Yeah.
during the halftime show, they had a protester run out in the field and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then wasn't it just like 2 weeks ago or something where in the French Quarter they had it was like a domestic terrorist attack or something. Now I'm messing it up. But they were already on high alert in New Orleans
Right.
because of that
Yeah.
attack that happened and
Yeah.
the people that died there. So then, yeah, and
Yeah.
then we were like, oh yeah, and also we're gonna host the Super Bowl in 2 weeks, and also the president's coming. It was just like, holy crap!
Everything
Yeah.
was going down.
They're like, we're gonna do it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna do it. New Orleans, baby. New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
crazy.
In your travels, what's like do you have any like crazy stories or like some really interesting stories of something that happened or whatnot?
So I guess so when I went to Peru and I went there and I got my TEFL certification, and that's like 1 month of you're at the institute like 10 hours a day, then you're teaching, and you basically do 3 months worth of schooling compacted down into 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
So after I graduated, I was like, I'm gonna go blow off some steam. So I'm gonna go to Porto Maldonado, which is a city in the Amazon rainforest, and it's near the border of Brazil, Bolivia, and Peru. It's like where they all kind of meet. And so I was there. I was staying in like this eco lodge with a nice swimming pool. Just going to the bar, getting some drinks, enjoying the warm weather and the pool. And I ended up going out at night to another bar, and there was a really nice, cute bartender. I don't know if I should tell this story.
Hey, it's good. It's good content, dude.
All right. So anyway, so I'm talking with her. I'm kind of flirting, and we're feeling good and whatnot. And all of a sudden, her husband shows up, and
Uh-oh.
her husband,
Oh, no.
he owns the bar. It's his bar, and he was just like, "Hey, man, this is my wife," And I was like, "Oh, okay, like respect." Like I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's like, "Hey, but do you wanna go find some women? You wanna go find some ladies? I was like, "Yeah, okay, let's go." So he's like, "Okay, hop on the back of my motorcycle." So we leave this bar, and I jump on the back of this motorcycle, and all of a sudden we're driving through the city. And the next thing I know, we're not in the city anymore, and now we're on these dirt roads, and we are going in the middle of the jungle, no streetlights. And I'm thinking, okay, I was just hitting on this guy's wife.
Uh-oh, he's gonna go take care of some business.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Where is he taking me, right? There's no civilization out here. I could just easily disappear. Nobody would ever know.
Yeah.
So panic kind of sinks in a little bit. And we keep driving. And then next thing we know, we come out to this big clearing, and there's this giant building out there in the middle of the rainforest, right? There were no lights, no nothing, and then all of a sudden there's this giant building, and it's all lit up, and we go inside, and it's a brothel.
Uh-oh.
Yes, and because it's in Peru, they have a problem with illegal mining,
Mm-hmm.
and so they have these mining camps like out in the Amazon rainforest where people go. They're mining for gold and silver, copper, precious metals, and it's all illegal. But the government's getting paid off, and they know about it, and the local police. It's just this big corruption thing. So they built this like brothel that was like the size of like a CVS pharmacy, like a Walmart,
Wow.
like a big block store.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's crazy.
Yeah.
yeah.
Did he like just know it was there and thought you'd be interested, or did he have like connections of guys who ran it or whatnot? Like,
Oh, he was connected for sure, but also I didn't understand what he meant. Like if I wanted to, I thought he just meant like he wanted to be my wingman. We're gonna go to a different bar.
Yeah.
We're gonna go
Yeah.
find.
That's
But no,
crazy.
that was not it.
he uses his bar for lead gen.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Hey.
No way.
That's
Yeah, it's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
You say you've been to a lot of bars in all these different countries. Um, I'm sure they have their own like craft beers and stuff. Like, what has been your favorite like drink at any of these bars, or do you have like a favorite bar in any of these
Well,
countries?
in Peru, there's a brewery called Cervecería Valle de Sagrado, which is it's like a microbrewery of the Sacred Valley, basically.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, they're very popular in Cusco and the Sacred Valley, and they're definitely my favorite. They have this um, Veronica is one of the names of the mountain peaks.
Yeah.
That's around like Machu Picchu. It's called Apu Veronica, and so
Yeah.
they have a double IPA that they named after Apu Veronica, and it's about 10%, and
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
you have a couple of those on a nice cold night in the mountains, and it sets you good.
Yeah.
Do you know
Oh,
a
yeah.
difference in like alcohol, like in these other countries versus like the States? Like I heard one guy say like when he was in Italy, it was harder for him to get drunk off of wine over there because like him and his wife went on a honeymoon and they could go through like more bottles of wine than over here because I don't know why he said it was, but it was just he goes it was just different. Like the Italian wine was different than our wine over here. Have you seen like a big difference in like the alcohol you drink or whatnot?
Well, I think maybe his thing was it wasn't that you didn't get drunk. It was that you didn't have a hangover because of the
Right.
sulfides.
That's what it was.
Oh, okay.
Sulfides, yeah.
Yeah, because Americans, the wine that's produced in California and stuff, sometimes it has sulfides, and so that kind of gives you the lingering hangover effect the next day. But then more natural wines without the sulfides, you can drink more and more, and like you feel better in the morning. So maybe
Yeah.
that's what he was referring to.
Yeah.
Um, but in Peru, they have a couple different indigenous types of alcohol. One is chicha, which is made out of corn, and how chicha is made is we call them the mamitas, like the women of the mountains. They
Uh-huh.
would take the corn and they chew it, and then they spit it into like a platoon. Like you ever see one of those old chew spit platoons, like the
Yeah.
Yeah, I
uh,
think so.
Uh-huh. I have.
so basically, they spit it into like a pot, basically, and then they set it and they let it start to ferment.
Yeah.
And they use that fermentation, that culture, to then they mix in the rest of the chicha with the corn, and they create this like corn. It's like a beer. Um, it's a mild alcohol. It's probably like 3%, I would guess, 3 or 4%.
Yeah.
But it's everywhere, like with the local people in the farming communities and stuff in the mountains. Like if you go to like a birthday party, a baptism, a harvest festival, anything, there's
Yeah.
going to be chicha there. So
Oh, that's
people
cool.
drink that.
Wow.
That's cool how they do like that. Like you said, they chew it up and spit it out. Like I love cigars, and like most cigars are like hand rolled over in other countries and whatnot because where the tobacco is grown,
Yeah.
and they'll be there hand rolling it, like using their sweat to help hold the leaves together as like they're making
yeah,
it and
yeah.
whatnot. It's like
Oh man.
Crazy what some of these places do. It's like if that was over here, there'd be so many health standards going off.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny.
When you travel around, do you like travel around and like try to find out like the history in places? Like, are you a big history guy, or you like go for like all the food places first to try to figure out like, because like I mean, if I'd travel around, I'd go figure out all the food places first. Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing is that usually food and history are kind of intertwined, so you
Oh,
kind of
okay.
you kind of do both at one time. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm definitely into the history, and so at the University of Minnesota, my degree was in history.
Oh,
That's what I
okay.
graduated with. Um, and places that I've been, like Peru, like the history is just so incredible, and it's not hidden in like a textbook, or it's living and it's breathing and it's
Yeah.
there and it's in the city. So you literally are in the city and you walk like 6 blocks from your apartment, and
Yeah.
then there's like a big, they call it a waka, which is like a spiritual rock
Okay.
formation. um, and then there's like ruins and stuff that are even pre-Inca. So
Oh.
um, talking like the years like 600, 500 AD. There's and it's just like, 5, 6 blocks. You pass it every day while you
Yeah.
go to the supermarket, or so
Yeah, they
um
just like keep it there. They don't try to replace it with some sort of like store or something. They just like keep all their
exactly,
history surrounded by where they live. Okay,
exactly.
that's pretty cool. I
You
mean,
said Inca,
Yeah,
were they the Inca tribe? That's right.
yeah, the Inca Empire
Inca
was
Empire.
like they're the largest empire that built, basically the Inca Empire was able to um subordinate all the other tribes of Peru
Uh-huh.
okay,
underneath one king, the Inca
okay,
king. And um, I think this was probably from the years like, I'd have to check just to to be accurate, but I
yeah,
think it would be like 1300s to when the Spanish came in like the 1560s or so. They is when the Spanish defeated the Inca Empire and took over. Was in the
mm,
late 1500s,
okay,
early 1600s. So for about 300, 400 years, the Inca Empire was like the dominant empire that subjugated all the other, like the people in the Amazon, the people on the coastline, the people in the North Jungle, the people, and united
Yeah.
basically also the peoples in Ecuador and all the way down to like Argentina and Bolivia. And so the whole Inca Empire was like the Andes Mountains, all the way from Ecuador down to Argentina.
whoa,
Um,
Yeah.
That's really
and
cool.
they built Machu Picchu, they built Huayna Picchu, and so all the famous structures that you go and see in Peru were built by the Inca Empire. But also, you got to remember that these were built upon previous civilizations' structures, right?
yeah,
So they just kind of built over them.
mm-hmm,
Um, and then the Spanish came and they did the same thing to the Incas. So,
Yeah. There's
so
a
they
lot of
built,
remodeling going on.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, just building on top of each other. And
It's kind of like what they're
yeah.
trying to do, like over in with all the Egyptian pyramids and whatnot. I always forget the name of it, but what's the name of that? The big statue. It's kind of like it's laying down
oh,
on. It's like it's has all
Or the
fours
Lion
with a big
Man.
head. Do you
yeah, I
know the
don't,
name of
Oh, the
that? The
Sphinx? The
Sphinx.
yeah,
That's what
Sphinx.
it
yeah, I
is.
didn't remember that.
Um, the Sphinx, part of it like got weather torn or broke off or whatever. So like the government over there is trying to like rebuild and add on to it and
Mm-hmm,
whatnot. And you can tell all the new construction versus the old construction,
mm-hmm,
which the new stuff looks awful. But they're trying to
Yeah.
they're doing the same thing. They're trying to rebuild over top of it and whatnot.
yeah.
And and
If there if there was any conspiracy theories that that country didn't build those, it was some other country before them, and that country's trying to say that they built them. If there's any conspiracy theories like that, you can just compare the two construction types. You're
well, it's
like,
not really a conspiracy theory. It's really hard for
yeah, because
researchers to go over there and do research
yeah,
because they are kind of scared of the fact that like they want to be known for being the ones who
yeah,
built it. So,
yeah. No, all you have to do is compare the construction types, and you're like, no, you did not build these.
well,
You
yeah,
can't even fix it.
yeah.
Yeah.
One question I had is when you travel around to it could be Peru, South America, or Europe or whatnot. Um, how much do these other countries like talk about U.S. politics? Is it like a lot or not a lot or?
Um, so right now in Southeast Asia, I am here, and they don't really talk about um, politics so much. Like they don't really care who's in office, if it's Joe
Uh-huh.
Biden, Donald Trump,
Mm-hmm.
because they're looking at the United States as just a single entity,
Right.
and they don't really. And they're looking at the history, right? Because obviously in Vietnam we have like the Vietnam War, and um, so it doesn't matter who exactly was in power, if it was Democrats or Republicans. It's just the
Uh-huh.
United States is just like its own thing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And in Peru and Latin America, it's a little different because they actually pay more attention because they're more our neighbors. And so
Mhm.
I think that internal political policy, like the policies set by certain presidents or certain administrations and stuff, have more of a direct impact on the peoples that live in, like in Mexico, in Colombia, in Peru. So I feel like they're more in tune with what's going on inside of the United States.
Yeah.
Um, but right now, what I'm noticing wherever I am, it's not so much about what's happening inside the United States as it's more of a United States versus China kind of thing going on right now.
Oh yeah.
Especially now in Southeast Asia, like the Chinese have come into Laos, and they built this like high-speed rail line that they're building from southern China to Vientiane, the capital of Laos.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And they're investing heavily into infrastructure projects and um, the Chinese, they have that policy. I can't remember what it's called, like the Beltway or the Belts and Roads or something,
Mhm.
where they're trying to build like the old ancient Silk Road, but like a
Yeah.
global one,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
and they're in Latin America and they're doing that like in Peru. They're
Okay.
doing it. Obviously, now we've been hearing about Trump talking about Panama
Uh-huh.
with the Chinese coming in and trying to take over parts of the Panama Canal.
Yep.
And so
Are they being a
before-
little bit more receptive to like the Chinese? Like, is it more so like the Chinese are coming in, building out all this infrastructure? So thankful isn't a good word, but like, are they more receptive to the Chinese? It feels like, or
it's so within Peru, there's the more of the capitalists and there's more of like the socialist communists. And so
Uh-huh.
naturally they split. One goes towards the United States and one goes
Yeah.
to China. So when the socialists here, in Peru, they had the president Castillo. He was a socialist, communist. He was a teacher from the countryside. He aligned a lot of his policies towards China, and then he actually got arrested and kicked out of power. And then now a new president came in who's pro United States, and so I don't know. It's just
How
it's
do
a
you-
big mess.
how did he get arrested? Like, what happened?
So he got brought up on corruption charges, which is part of playing ball, I guess, in some Latin American countries. But
Right.
basically, Congress. So basically, Congress didn't like him. He was being investigated for corruption charges, and then he decided to dissolve Congress and
Right.
and fire everybody. And so when he did that, they issued like an arrest warrant for him
Uh-huh.
because it was like
Yeah.
illegal. And so they caught him. He was in a car like with his wife, and he was trying to get to the airport to get to Mexico. And they arrested him and threw him in prison.
Man.
And
Oh.
I think he's still in prison. But
And the
in
fact that
Peru
the new
now, the Chinese are building this giant port in Peru. And it's very controversial because it's one of those Chinese infrastructure projects. But again, with these infrastructure projects, they always come with strings attached, of course.
Yeah.
And they're set up to keep countries in debt. And And I mean, I guess the United States and the IMF do that as well. So I'm not saying one's greater than the other or
Right.
one's better than the other.
Yeah.
They're both essentially corrupt to some regard. But
Mm-hmm.
are they grateful? I would not say so, because also some of these Chinese infrastructure projects, they're put together super fast. They're poor quality, and so all of a sudden, a couple years down the road, they start falling apart and bridges collapsing and stuff. So it's
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's
The fact that the one president, like, who was more pro China was arrested and then replaced with the one who's like more pro United States, it makes you ever wonder if like the United States was involved in that happening. You know what I mean? Because if you look into the history, like, so after World War II, there were certain international laws created where it was more so illegal to basically, what do you call it? What's the name for it? Basically control a country by just having your troops on the ground. So
yeah,
basically
occupy.
occupy in other countries. So the United States had they changed up their strategy a little bit where they used more so like intelligence and influence on local elections in order to get certain people in office. And
Yeah.
what they would do is one of the strategies is they would find corruption on the one side that they didn't want to support. And then they would do mass media campaigns and everything in the local area in order to get one elected and to suppress the other, so that they could still do occupation, but more so from a political perspective versus
Mhm.
like an
Yeah.
in-person military occupation. And it's just fascinating how much big countries like the US and even China, it sounds like now, that like they have their influence in other countries, even though it doesn't look like it. So when you said the
Yeah.
one was he was more so towards the Chinese, and then he gets ousted out under these charges, and then one comes in who's more pro United States, it sounds like it's like, even though if it's not, it sounds like it sounds really similar to
Yeah.
like that strategy that we've known we'd do already.
Definitely, for sure. And that's also exactly what you're talking about, is what USAID,
Uh-huh.
has been used since like 1961. It was started, by the John F. Kennedy administration, and it was in partnership with the CIA to do these kind of psyop um, within countries, within their political systems, without actually occupying and having troops on the ground, but being able to use mass media to sway the population to vote a certain way, or to overthrow somebody, or to go to civil war. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, that USAID thing was crazy. Not your average American didn't know it existed, and the amount of money that it was spending on other countries was crazy for
Yeah.
like propaganda and training and all
Mhm.
kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
That was
Yep.
that was crazy. They in Doge, so the new Doge department, they used
Yeah.
software engineers to create a 3D graph showing how money was being routed and like where, and it created this really complex 3D graph showing the complex network of money being transferred everywhere.
Mhm.
And a lot of it was like going out of the country doing exactly what you said, especially through USAID.
Oh
Mhm.
man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And I mean, that is a way that it's been for, decades and decades. And I mean, arguably, it's like, okay, yeah, it is at the foot, like the taxpayers are footing the bill, and it's a big waste of money, but also that influence, like, if it's taken away and the US is no longer putting that money into these like operations and whatnot, it creates this power void, and where the Chinese are going to just come up and step in, and they're going to be the ones that are going to be
Right, because like
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
not black and white. Like so many people think these things are like black and white, but if you completely have no American influence, then that opens the door. Right, you said it creates that power vacuum where like
Yeah.
the Chinese come in, and then you also you have to think like long term too. Like what would be the implications of that? But then, like, you have people on both sides who are like, the United States shouldn't be involved at all in other foreign relations or whatnot. And then you have, no issue is
Yeah.
black and white. It's very, very
Right.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, awesome, dude. This was a really great talk. We thoroughly enjoyed it. It looks like we're a little bit over an hour now.
Okay.
Before we end the episode, we'll obviously drop the link to your Upwork profile in the description of this video and the podcast when it goes live. But if there's
Okay.
anywhere else you want people to find you, is there anywhere else you'd want people to find you or look you
I
up?
guess I can give my LinkedIn account too.
Yeah, we'll put.
Because
Yeah.
because if you're gonna show me a little bit, maybe you have some videos or some sources that you can show me about. I really do want to pursue the LinkedIn avenue and stuff. I want to try something that's not Upwork because it's frustrating every day. It's like
Yeah.
Yeah. In the meantime,
Yeah.
if you try to do like the AI video content, I would definitely try LinkedIn because you could do your same writing workflow right for LinkedIn because the text posts hit really well.
Yeah.
There's some stuff I can send over to you, and I'll be sure to send that over, and we'll link your LinkedIn profile in the description,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll link your Upwork profile in the description just in case anyone wants to get in touch with you about any content jobs, because you've been working with us for a while, and I've personally worked with other content writers in the past who were a lot less than ideal, and you've been really well to work
Yep.
with. Your writing is very good.
Yeah.
And especially since you're really good at taking an industry and doing a lot of research into it and providing accurate content, which is really nice because it makes you a much higher asset than just other content writers, because you could pretty much write for any industry or any niche because of the amount of research and whatnot that you put into it. So we've really enjoyed working with you. We're going to try to send you a testimonial over soon so that you can we'll do that on
Yeah.
Upwork and
No,
whatnot.
I
So help you there.
appreciate that.
But you can use it elsewhere on LinkedIn and whatnot. But unless you guys have anything, we'll end it here and then
Yeah.
be good.
I'm good.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
All right.
See you later, bro.
See ya.
All right. Take care, guys.
There you go.
Great talk.
Thank you, Garrett.